Hello, everyone. Welcome to EVTN News and Happy Columbus Day. I'm sure that'll make the far leftists very angry. So, anyway, let's start off with Vegano, EVTN, Eternal Vegano Television Network. In an interview with The Remnant, Vegano was asked, "Do you still offer the new Mass on occasion?" Vigano said, "No, I have not celebrated the Novus Ordo for a few years now, and I do not see how I could retrace my steps by agreeing to celebrate it even occasionally." Now, that actually wasn't the main focus of the article or the interview, but it was definitely something very interesting to note in the interview. He gives a lot of interviews, so you can read the full interview. The link in the video. All right, so Bishop Dominique Ray of the Diocese of Fréjus Toulon in France. Remember how he was banned from ordaining priests? And I mean, he was he has a reputation of being traditional, but I would say it's more of in the sense of being conservative. It's not really traditional because that was the diocese of Dom Alcuin Reid, who was ordained, who Bishop Ray did not ordain in the Old Rite. Someone else did. It was suspected that Cardinal Mueller ordained Dom Alcuin Reid in the Old Rite. Anyway, uh, he had followed up by discussing with his priest that he was banned from he had not received word from the Vatican that he could ordain priests, and then another point of information that LifeSite pointed out was that he was also banned from establishing new religious orders in his diocese. So there you go, a bishop who basically can't be a bishop, and he just says thank you very much for your restrictions. Obedience, blind obedience. Probably been following this story. Father James Jackson is a FSSP priest from Rhode Island. He was arrested in October on federal and state child pornography charges. He admitted in federal court that the government could prove that he violated certain conditions of his pre-trial release. The conditions of his pre-trial release were set in November 21 before he was allowed to leave Rhode Island to reside with a family member in Kansas. In his October 3rd hearing at the U.S. District Court in Providence, he admitted that the government could prove that he violated the condition prohibiting him from possessing any materials, including videos, magazines, photographs, computer-generated depictions, or any other forms that depict sexually explicit content involving children. He did not admit that he committed the new crime, only that the government could establish probable cause that he did. Wow. So that doesn't look good. Now people said he may be framed. A lot of people were very shocked that knew him personally. Uh, I don't know. I don't really understand the legal stuff behind this either. But I do need to report on the news, and that's something in the news. It also caused the major issues between Church Militant and Restoring the Faith Media. Of course, um, my thoughts on that. So I'm not going to talk any further about it. And also this news item, we'll see. I mean, in court, the court cases drag on and on and on, so it might be a while before he even gets to go to court, and then to see what the determination is on that. All right, Cardinal Mcelroy. That's horrible. It sounds horrible. Anyway, Cardinal Mcelroy celebrated the 2022 Feast of St. Francis Mass on October 1st. He opened the Mass by outlining what had brought them together. He said, "We celebrate two important realities in our world. The first is the beauty of creation that God has bestowed upon the whole human family. It's the foundation of every blessing we know in our lives. The second is the call that God has given to us to be protectors of that creation, guardians in a special way, and to understand that our times we have defaced and destroyed so much of the created order that is in great crisis, and we must move as a human family to end that crisis. So he's talking about like a so-called environmental crisis. What about the crisis of faith? What about the distortion of doctrines? But that's what, I don't know. Is that why he was named a cardinal? Talk about that stuff. We're going to focus on the environment. Cardinal Thomas Collins, Archbishop of Toronto, was present and permitted a pagan smudging ceremony at the altar in St. Michael's Cathedral in Toronto. In the national bloodletting of Woke, Truth, and Reconciliation, the Register's assistant editor, Swan, writes on the issue, the Mass began with a smudging ceremony before the altar. So, there you go. Well, incorporating pagan elements into the liturgy. So, that's not illicit Mass. Pretty obvious, right? All right, but you think that's the worst thing that happened? Terni, this is in Italy. Terni Bishop Francesco Sodu attended the September 27th inauguration of a Terni Masonic Lodge and even participated in the ribbon cutting ceremony. There you go. Sodu justified himself on the diocesan website by attacking his critics and claiming that the evidence was misunderstood and misinterpreted. They have a photo of him at the ribbon cutting ceremony. What's there to misinterpret? All right, getting to the USCCB election. They have an election for president and vice president. So the outgoing president is Gomez and the outgoing vice president is Vigneron. Their 3-year terms expire, and the bishops, the USCCB Fall General Assembly will be held in Baltimore on November 14th through the 17th. So there are 10 nominees. Archbishop Broglio of the Archdiocese of the Military, and he has said some Catholic things that oppose the LMNOP agenda. He is also, I believe he's currently like a secretary or something on the USCCB, so he's on their leadership board. I would say he may be one of the favorites. I don't know how traditional he is. I don't suspect he is particularly traditional. Bishop Burbage of Arlington, who just cracked down on the Latin Mass. I wonder Bishop Frank Caggiano of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City. Archbishop Corleone of San Francisco. If he gets a large number of the votes, that would really be like an anti-Francis statement. But we'll see. I don't expect that, unfortunately. But we'll see where the bishops are at with this election. Archbishop Paul Etienne, Archdiocese of Seattle. So he's actually one of the far left. He's one of the far left rainbow bishops. Bishop Daniel Flores of Brownsville, Texas. And Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Siller of San Antonio. So Flores and Garcia Siller are both very, very big on immigration, very big on open borders. So USCCB gets millions. I think their last count was it 50 million in their last round of financial statements that they received from the U.S. government every year. 50 million, I'm not sure. It's in government grants for immigration. Archbishop Laurie, Archdiocese of Baltimore, and Archbishop Laurie is the bishop over the Knights of Columbus, and they pay him $130,000 a year to write an article every month. he does a little bit more for them, but you get the idea. That's not his diocesan salary that he gets paid as a bishop. That's the Knights of Columbus paying him. He gets money on top of that from the diocese for his normal salary. And then Bishop Kevin Rhodes of the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend, Indiana. And I believe he spoke a lot on the USCCB's initiative. I think it was on this Eucharistic coherence type of deal that he kind of did a little bit of research on. So anyway, those are your candidates. My favorite, I kind of hope Coeur d'Leon gets it. All right, moving on to the Amazon. Did you expect anything different? We heard, we saw the paganism and we heard the discussions around the Amazon Synod, and the final document didn't come up with what we really kind of expected. We expected the women deacons and married priests, and that didn't necessarily come up with that. But the newly approved Ecclesial Conference of the Amazon involves bishop, priests, and women, and men religious, and lay faithful from 9 countries of the Amazon region. This was said by Cardinal Pedro Barreto, S.J., is a Jesuit, of Peru. So, okay, what are your expectations now? Well, in Latin America, religious sisters perform baptisms, weddings, liturgies, and some even hear confessions for people who confide personal problems to them, although they cannot give absolution, Barreto said. Weddings and liturgies. Okay. He mentioned his recent dialogue with the liturgical congregation under Cardinal Roche. Oh, another rotten thought. He's a cardinal now, regarding an Amazon liturgy. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about an Amazon liturgy. And this isn't just for the Amazon region. I mean, you guys aren't naive. You know that. This is a trial. They're going to try it in the Amazon, and they're going to spread it to the rest of the church that'll deal with it. Some of us won't deal with it. We'll reject it. Anyway, Barreto said, "This is the first time we have been able to have a fraternal dialogue with this dicastery and an attitude of listening." And then he said, "It is the first of its kind in the history of the church," said the prelate, who predicted that the bishops' conferences will have to transform themselves into ecclesial conferences. So instead of bishops, they have, as I said at the beginning, priests, women, and men religious, and lay faithful. Anyway, he said the conferences will have to transform themselves into ecclesial conference. Bishops' conferences will have to transform themselves into ecclesial conferences, which he sees as centered on the people of God in accordance with the Second Vatican Council. All right, so this is one of the fruits of Vatican II. Another big news story, Reverend Giulio Mignani, age 52, a parish priest in a small southern Italian town, has been barred by his bishop from celebrating Mass and the sacraments after vocally advocating for the welcoming of LMNOP individuals in the church. Mignani said, "The church doesn't condemn LMNOP, but LMNOP relations, which is like saying it's okay to be hungry, but you can't eat." Wow. I mean, it's a paradigm, he said, it's a paradigm that must be changed. LMNOP love is still considered a sin, a mistake, when it's a fundamental aspect of the life of these people. Okay, so a few thoughts on this. The bishop is right to suspend him, but the bishop might also not have a job very shortly in the Francis Church. Should be on the phone. Call up the SSPX. Because you're either gonna not be a bishop, or you will be. You have a choice of being a bishop or sitting at home, maybe on diocesan payroll. All right, let me talk about cardinals being kicked out, which I don't even know if they can do that. I don't even know if they can be kicked out. I think a cardinal can go around and say mass wherever he wants, whenever he wants, on his own terms, and there's no, if it's a heretical mass and he can be excommunicated, like if it's an invalid mass, there's heretical elements, he could be excommunicated. But like this applies particularly to the Latin mass. You can go in any cardinal, so Cardinal Burke can go around to every single diocese in the United States, and he could say mass, Latin mass, in every diocese. Anyway, Cologne Cardinal Rainier Wolke of Germany was denied on October 4th in the sacristy of St. Peter's Basilica to preside a Eucharist for 2,000 altar boys. Wow. He accompanied to Rome on a Roman pilgrimage. The background is France's vicious rule forcing everyone to celebrate at St. Peter's. Wolke was sent away by 2 lay people hired by Cardinal Gambetti. And, yeah, so he didn't get to say mass there. He was turned away. So there you go. I guess it was because he refused to celebrate, or someone was already celebrating a mass, so they said, see ya. And Cardinal Robert Serra was supposed to celebrate a high mass in the Church of Saint Roch in Paris to mark the 40th anniversary of Notre Dame de Charité, which organizes the Chartres pilgrimage. But in keeping with Francis' empty talk about synodality, Parish Archbishop Laurent Ulrich banned the Mass, which like I said before these 2 stories, I don't think he's allowed to ban that. The Remnant newspaper believes the reason is that the Novus Ordo Church is increasingly concerned about the success of this pilgrimage. Okay, so there you have it. Thank you for joining me on the live stream. I'm going to get to these comments here. So, I'm part native and happy Columbus came and stopped the human sacrifice by Aztecs and Mayans. There you go. And you pray for my godmother Mary Ann, who is dying of lung cancer. All right. Well, I don't know. Can you see the St. Peregrine statue back here? He's the patron saint of cancer patients, I believe. So, St. Peregrine, pray for us, especially for Mary Ann. Years ago, I was told if I did not shut up. Oh, that's blackmail. That can be reported, and that could backfire on that person pretty easily. Okay. There's a lot of interesting news going on, and every week there's always something else. And so, what would it be? In about a month, we're having the USCCB meeting for the first time in a year. Well, it's the first public meeting for the first time in a year. It is, what do I say, discouraging. I cover it every year. And I spend a lot of time covering it. Discouraging, demoralizing, because bishops, they'll make very tentative statements in favor of the Catholic faith, and then others will make very strong statements in opposition to the Catholic faith. But you get a real idea of who stands on what side. And the guys on the side of the Francis Church, they're very emboldened. The guys on the side of the Catholic faith, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say about it. But anyway, this has been a short EVTN news, and that's fine. We can always do that, and that gives you more time to do something else. Pray your rosary, read a book, read a religious book. And I saw, by the way, that the SSPX, their podcast website is back up, and they have a vocation series. So I think it's really important. And I've liked the episodes. I think there's been the introduction on the first episode, so I've liked those so far. And I'm pretty excited to hear about the rest of them. Their podcast series, I mean, if you haven't listened to their podcasts, they have them on YouTube as well. check it out. It's good stuff. I like it. Even if you don't agree with everything they have to say, you at least get that perspective. They're doing media, at least that form of the media, really great. Now I wish that they would update some of their websites and um, get a little bit better of a media presence in terms of like mass times and you know integrating their communities, um, but promoting events. I don't know, but anyway, that's good. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This has been EVTN News. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.